you're still playing the Lightning Strike build and you are looking how to take it to the next level, I think I have something here cooked up that could interest you. Bear in mind, I'm playing a private league. I'm quite far behind everyone else and I don't have access to everything. So this is a concept and it's going to be what I'm working toward for the build in the PL. But I have been sharing this POB around. People have been asking questions about it and I'm going to go into it today and explain what's happening and what I think it's going to be capable of. I want this build to be able to do simulacrums very comfortably. I want it to be able to do tier 17s and Ubers, and we will see. But here is the POB. So, firstly, you're seeing damage looking really good, tree looking pretty different, but then the EHP is looking kind of unhinged. Bear in mind, this is full Pub Warrior. We have our Immortal Call turned on, but I'm just kind of exploring the limits of the build at sort of max everything with the Rage up and the Elusive and Fortify and everything. So we can turn some of that off. I've turned off the Immortal Call, turned off Fortify. We can turn off Endurance Charges. We will have, I think that's probably most of the stuff. Flasks, we can, turn that off. Even then it's looking pretty juicy. But how are we getting so tanky? And this is where this comes in. So, Svalinn. This is a new shield from the League mechanic. I think it drops from Svalinn, the boss who sometimes invades your map device. I don't know how expensive it is on trade, but I got a perfect one from one of my guild mates. Thank you, Rob, for this. So what makes this shield so good? The line is, chance to block is lucky. Anytime you see lucky in PoE, what that means is it's like D&D advantage. You roll twice and take the highest option. So it's essentially just giving you a much higher block chance. Currently, PoE is calculating my block chance at 82% with this shield. If I take it off though, it's, let's put on a Dawnbreaker. It's quite a bit, well, there it's 75 and my spell block is 40, but with this, it is much higher. So this shield also has another interesting line, trigger a socketed elemental spell on block with a 0.25 second cooldown. So the idea is we're blocking a bunch and this is massively improving our EHP. And then when we do block, we can trigger things like Flame Wall. This is a spell that puts a wall of fire on the ground and then we can shoot projectiles through it, increasing their damage. So that's why I have this turned on. Projectiles travel through Flame Wall. This is giving us increased damage. I also try to use Smite before someone pointed out you can't use Smite with claws. So I looked and I thought, how about like a Hydrosphere? I want to test this so we can see maybe we can go with a Hydrosphere in that third link and then just the Blood Rage is just in there, but it's not going to be proccing by itself. So this shield, I think, is insanely good, and it's going to make us very tanky. It also gives us a lot of ward. Well, not a lot, but a bit of ward on top of it. So shield. And then as for the rest of the gear, this is just a claw that I found on the trade sites. It's like an 800 EDPS claw. You could get higher. And we got the helmet. So most of the implicits I'm going to be going for on these gear pieces are defensive. So things like Fizz taken as Lightning, Max Lightning Res, and then the mods are like everything we need. Int, Life, Strength, all of those things, Chaos Res. Same with the chest. This is kind of an upgraded version of the existing chests I have in game. Fizz taken as Fire, Max Res, Chimera Scale Gauntlets, Projectiles Pierce, and also Rage on melee hit. I probably will change this to strike skills target one nearby additional enemy, and then also keep it on the tree. But this Lethal Pride I happened to get didn't have Rage on hit. So if you have Rage on hit, you can rather have it on your Lethal Pride and free up that implicit on your gloves. Then boots, it's just the same thing. Life, Chaos Res, Strength, Intelligence, that should have to be crafted, unveiled, and then Suppression, Chance to avoid elemental elements I'll get into, and then Max Fire Res, and then Yoke of Suffering. this is something that I've strangely just overlooked the power of. I know it's so good, it's so obviously great, but with this we can get just an obscene amount of damage out of it. So we can pop that on. Let's just see, it's granting us 43% increased damage. So for each type of ailment we've inflicted on them, we gain an extra 10% increased damage. And with this version of the build, because of Avatar of the Wilds, we can reliably apply Ignite, Freeze, Shock, and then also Poison and Bleeding, which we get on the tree over here. We can get 1 point of Bleed, like this. This is 10% chance to cause bleeding. You can also get a Tattoo, which is chance to cause bleeding on hit. But the only problem with this is you need to apply to a Strength node on the tree, and we are already pretty stretched for the strength that we need. So you can, if you can fit this in, you could go with something like this, but otherwise just an extra point, and then you can rather take the point here, which is just a 10% chance to bleed. Then the poison we're getting from this wheel over here, and this is something I've put in my current version of the build, which is chance to poison on hit with attacks, and then also 10% attack speed. But this is the main benefit of this, which is this delicious poison mastery over here. Enemies poisoned by you cannot deal critical strikes. So we are mostly crit immune. It's not as good as having like 100% reduced damage taken from crits, but it's effectively crit immunity. So this pairs really nicely with our yoke, and we're getting just absurd damage out of it. This is not a super cheap item. It's also pretty rare. You get it from tier 17 Fortress bosses. I've done about 7. Still no luck yet, but we'll get there. As for the taming, keeping that in, and then just a ring with life, resistances, chaos res, elemental damage with attacks, and minus mana cost. As for the belt, I think Perseverance is maybe going to be the best here. This is where some testing comes in. It's either going to be Perseverance or a Stygian, or we can go with a Darkness Enthroned. If you get a Darkness Enthroned, this is a belt that drops from one of the Abyss bosses. You can get 100% increased effect of socketed Abyss jewels. And then there is a node on the tree where you can actually get some 6 mod Abyss eyes. So that's a bit trickier to do in SSF because you have to farm those Abyss jewels with 6 mods, and those 6 mods can be good. But this is something to bear in mind if you do play this build. If you can find some nice 6 mod Abyss jewels on the trade site, you could even go Darkness Enthroned, or maybe even the Micro Distillery would be really good just to push up our armor even more. But we can also look at the tree. Most of the tree on this side is fairly similar. However, we've dropped the Lethal Pride from up here down to here. This also hits a ton of good stuff. Most of this is the same. We've got this poison thing that I've taken here. Also, we're rather going for this Primeval Force with the Invert Mastery here instead of grabbing the Force of Nature just to save a point. And then further down, it's all looking the same, but then we hit this. What is this? So this is a very large ring Thread of Hope. And this hits over here, Disciple of the Unyielding. So we're getting endurance charges on kill, and then also Disciple of the Slaughter. I don't know how high value this is. I guess 8% increased damage for Frenzy Charge. We have 4 Frenzy Charges and 4 Endurance Charges. This large, very large ring used to be insanely good, but GGG very sneakily moved some stuff around on the tree, so now it doesn't hit the stuff it used to hit. It used to hit Rampart, this over here, so you could get very nice fortification effect, but now it is just out of reach, so that doesn't hit. It also used to hit Hatchet Master, which grants Onslaught on kill. That is now moved over here, so I'm not 100% sure if this is the right move, this very large thread. It does also hit Spirit of War, which has 15% reduced mana cost of attacks and some life nodes at the top. But the other thing it does hit is Testudo, which is really big for this build. If we uncheck this, the EHP drop-off is fairly significant because of the line recover 30 life when you block. So if we are just constantly blocking, we're getting a lot of life recovery from that, and it also has 10% chance to block attack damage while holding a shield. If we take this off, our block chance dips quite a bit, but I think this is going to be worth it, and I'm going to give it a shot. I am open to other ideas though. This is a bit of a theorycraft, so if you have something better, let me know. But over here, another thing that's great is deflection. Chance to block attack damage while holding a shield, and chance to gain an endurance charge when you block. So our endurance charge generation is going to be really good with this, and then this block mastery, 1% chance to block spell damage per 5% chance to block attack damage. So if we take that off, that drops quite significantly. But now, how are we getting our spell block up to 76%? My head has been in the way. You can see it over here. Block chance, 82%. Spell block chance, 76%. We take that off, goes down to 64. There is a trick, and that is in the form of a gem swap, which is we are using Tempest Shield. So instead of going for Flesh and Stone or Arctic Armor, I think opting for Tempest Shield is really good because this gives us 25% chance to block spell damage while holding a shield. If we take this off and I move my face, you can see our spell block with this on is 76%. With it off, it's 45%. With this off, it drops down to 28%. So just by going this block mastery and then popping in the Tempest Shield, we're getting a huge boost to our spell block chance. And that's because it's being scaled by this Svalinn lucky block chance. So I think this is the play. As for the rest of the gems, it's mostly pretty similar. Because we have such good endurance charge generation, we can use Immortal Call. This is giving us just a huge amount of EHP. And then the rest is pretty much the same, except over here for our mark, because of our tinctures being so ridiculously good and giving us such massive crit chance, we could even use a sniper's mark instead of an assassin's mark. So like that does actually give us a little bit more damage with the sniper's mark. But bear in mind, then we are going to not get power charges. So if we take off power charges and assassin's mark, we are still crit capped. So maybe sniper's mark is actually the play. Also, the projectile splitting toward additional targets is super nice for just clear and everything. So maybe we go sniper's mark, maybe assassin's mark. I'm not 100% sure yet, but the rest of the gems, clarity, arrogance, precision, this is still the same. The whirling blades is the same. I don't even think we need to use life tap with this. My mana cost was 0. And then as for the gems, same thing. Lightning Strike, Awakened added lightning damage, or you can use Awakened added cold damage, depending on whichever works best for your Trinity. I mean, if we're going all in on this, we could go for like an Awakened multi-strike. Why not? Let's just show you what the potential is over here. So rest of the gems, returning projectiles, Nightblade. We could start thinking about doing something like Nimbus and then dropping this for an Awakened elemental damage with attacks, but I leave that in your hands. If you can fit it in and make it work, go for it. But otherwise, I'm just leaving it like that for now. Jewels, pretty much the same. We're going Ancestral Vision. You can use a Storm Shroud instead. And we got the Thread of Hope and Lethal Pride. There was something else that we can look at. There is an absolutely exceptional Thread of Hope that I've used in a few builds in the past, but this massive ring Uber Thread of Hope. I'll just show you what it looks like, but let's just copy this tree so we don't break it. Massive thread. Pop this in. This massive Thread of Hope is so good because it hits so much wonderful stuff. So firstly, Path the Hunter, getting projectile damage, accuracy rating. Also up here, it's hitting life. We can get that. Also 8% reservation. Up here, Blood Siphon for strength, max life. Over here, crit chance. We can hit that. We can hit Forces of Nature. And probably, I don't know, I might be missing something down here. Aspect of the Lynx for more crit. Also gets hit by our Lethal Pride. Weapon Artistry, super good. Hit by Lethal Pride. Melee Strike Range. And down here, Quick Step. This is just like the most insane, massive threat. It's really excellent. Apparently these are not super expensive. And this might be better than going down here, but I'd have to math it out. Like I said, this is a bit of a Theorycraft, so we'll see if that does work. But I'm going to stick with this for now. As for melee strike range, this is something I think I partially overlooked before my friend Turtle came into chat yesterday and said, you need to maybe get a bit of extra melee strike range. It just improves the feel of the build, lets you stand back a bit and still get those hits off on the enemy. So 0.2 melee strike range, you can get this on your gloves as a benchcraft instead of the pierce. Two pierces minimum is probably fine, but we could also upgrade this to exquisite or perfect and get another 2 pierces just from the implicit. If you have enough pierce and you don't have any melee strike range, maybe opt for this. But if you have the non-volatile strike skills, target one nearby additional enemy, you could also then on the tree, instead of going for this, go for the melee strike range mastery. But again, my friend Turtle reckons non-volatile strike skills target 2 additional enemies. So let's say you have this on your here and on your gloves, or you get your gloves up to exquisite or perfect. You can get non-volatile strike skills target 2 nearby additional enemies. He reckons that's actually really exceptional for clear. So if you can get that, give it a shot. It's pretty hard to see what it's doing because of all the projectiles flying out, but he reckons it's absolutely worth it to get more than 1 non-volatile strike skills target in an additional nearby enemy. I think there is one other thing that we need to talk about on this build, and that is that I think this build has an Achilles heel currently. So the defense might look insane, of course, when everything is turned on, your Immortal Call has procced, but recovery. We have ridiculously good active recovery in the form of Life Leech, but in terms of passive recovery, as in when we're not hitting something, our life regen is terrible. And we don't really have the life pool to sustain, standing in a serious storm or a blob on the ground. It's not going to kill us instantly because we do have a decent amount of life, not a huge amount though. So how do we solve this? And I've been thinking there's a couple of ways, and either what we need to do is Flesh Flame, Master Surgeon, and then get some good recovery out of spamming our Life Flask, and then having a Watcher's Eye. We can get a Watcher's Eye with chance to gain a charge on crit with precision, something like this, just to improve our Flask Sustain. Could also go with something weird with Energy Shield, Burden of Truth, or the Cirrus Belt for Supreme Decadence. Something like this could work. However, maybe something a little bit simpler would be using Overleech with Offering to the Serpent, which are gloves that drop from Venarius, the guy in Cortex. Something like this is worth testing, I think. I saw these on trade, these exact ones for 2 divines. Excuse me. I would go out and buy them. Too many gems. I think everything still fits. It's actually a really good pair of gloves because it has attributes, it has armor, it has attack and cast speed, damage while leeching, and also life effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Now, if you do go Offering of the Serpent, do bear in mind that your spell suppression is now not going to be capped, because this mastery, 15% chance to suppress spell damage if body armor, helmet, gloves, and boots all have evasion rating. This does not have evasion rating, unless maybe you could get one with an evasion rating implicit, but I don't think so. These implicits are randomly rolled when they drop, so you could get like a really good one or a really bad one. I think this could be good. But now if we do remove this, because we go these gloves, we could instead go either for something like lucky suppression. I think this is probably the play. Just go for lucky suppression. And then you still have like a 94% chance. And you've got a huge amount of block chance, spell block chance. So if you go the gloves, go that way. And then the other thing, the other downside of this glove is reduce maximum recovery per leech. So just bear that in mind. There is a nice leech thing over here that could maybe help with that, but I don't know if it's actually, it's one of those things I'm gonna have to play with, feel, and see what it looks like. So think about those gloves. If you have any other suggestions, do let me know. I'm pretty excited about this version of the build. It's like a big goal to work toward and see how it feels. I would like this to be able to do tier 17s, Ubers very comfortably without dying. So I will link this PoB in the description. This is full PoB warrior mode active. And yeah, it's possibly a little bit unrealistic, but I mean, the uptime on things like Fortify should be pretty good with our Perseverance. If we don't use Perseverance, we could get the chance to Fortify on melee hit from the Eater, implicit on chest. There's a lot of stuff. Let me know what you think. I think this is pretty poggies. You're gonna give it a shot. Do let me know. I will be streaming and you can tell me what you think about this version of the build if you do respec into it. It's gonna take me a while to get to this stage, so I will update you when I get there, but otherwise, yeah, let me know. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe. Catch you in the next video, and goodbye.